Salutations. If you're new to my channel, welcome.
I want to say, first off, welcome. Goddamn it, welcome.
I'm Lala. I wish I was coming to you on a brighter note, but I'm coming to you on a necessary note. I have my hood on. This is for Trayvon Martin, that is, because I'm in Florida. George Zimmerman still walks among us, a free man. That's another case for another day. However, today's case that I want to discuss with you is the case of Breonna Taylor. If you want to hear about the life and the death of Breonna Taylor, just keep watching. Breonna Taylor was 26 years old, living in Louisville, Kentucky, with aspirations of becoming a nurse. She was a decorated EMT, working during the COVID pandemic at 2 different hospitals as an essential worker, putting her life on the line every day to help. What was her offense? Sleeping while black. Why did she die? Because she was black. On the night of March 13th, 2020, around 1 a.m., Louisville Metro Police officers executed a no-knock narcotics search warrant to her home, looking for a Jamarcus Glover. In relative to her address, they were advised that he stashed drugs at her home, which is why they were there. Inside the residence was Breonna Taylor, who was asleep, along with her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, who was a licensed gun holder. Breonna Taylor's 20-year-old sister also resided with her, but was not present at the time the search warrant was executed. Louisville Metro Police Department used a battering ram to enter the home, the apartment. Mr. Walker and Miss Taylor were under the impression that their home was being broken into. Mr. Walker, in defense of his home, his lady, and himself, took his registered firearm and opened fire on what he thought were burglars. And he hit Officer Jonathan Mattingly in the leg. 3 officers, including Officer Jonathan Mattingly, Officer Miles Cosgrove, and Officer Brett Hankinson, opened fire on the 2 without regard for human life or who was in the residence, and fired more than 20 rounds into the residence. 8 of those rounds went into Breonna Taylor, killing her. What was her offense? Sleeping while black. The search warrant, who was it for? Kenneth Walker? No. Breonna Taylor? No. Her sister? No. It was for Jamarcus Glover. Who is that? As of yet, we don't know the connection between Jamarcus Glover and Breonna Taylor, or Jamarcus Glover and Kenneth Walker. But according to the search warrant, Mr. Glover had narcotics stashed at Breonna Taylor's residence, which is what brought the Louisville Metro Police Department to her home on that night, March 13th. They were there to retrieve narcotics. Now, had the Louisville Metro Police Department communicated with each other, they would have known that 2 hours prior to the execution of that search warrant, that no-knock warrant to Miss Taylor's home, Jamarcus Glover was taken into custody by another set of narcotics officers, and there was no need to enter Breonna Taylor's home. Therefore, she should be alive. That should be the end of the story. But we all know that's not what happened. So, I'm sorry, I'm upset. The 911 tape was released today. On the tape, you can hear Kenneth Walker, her boyfriend, who was still unsure that the people that entered her home were law enforcement officers, and said that someone broke into his home and he thinks that the gunshots may have hit his girl. She's on the floor and she's unresponsive. Oh my God, y'all need to get here. At no point he said that they were police. Mind you, they were plain clothes. Mind you, those were unmarked cars that they came in. According to the police reports, which were documented by the police officers, of course, the police said that they announced themselves as police officers, but witnesses and residents of the apartment complex said they never heard anyone say or announce themselves as police. Mr. Walker, who was subsequently arrested and charged with attempted murder of a law enforcement officer, criminal negligence, and gross negligence, and was arrested that night, he said he did not hear anyone announce themselves as a police officer. Now, what is unique about this case, the Breonna Taylor case, is that there is a witness, a surviving witness, who can contradict law enforcement's account of the events that transpired that evening of March 13, 2020, that left Breonna Taylor dead in her home, in her bed. Where usually in the cases such as this, where officers execute search warrants and residents open fire and then are subsequently killed by law enforcement, there usually isn't any witnesses. So then the accounts of the events are usually from the perspective of the law enforcement, which is then fed to the news outlets, and that's it. But Mr. Walker is alive and well. So that's what makes this case unique. Now, just to shed some light on the subject of how the police feed information to the news media, here is the news report from the night. This is the original report from the Louisville Courier-Journal about Taylor's death. It was headlined, LMPD officer shot, woman killed during drug investigation off St. Andrew's Church Road. A Louisville Metro Police sergeant was shot and wounded, and a woman was killed early Friday during a narcotics investigation near St. Andrew's Church Road and Doss High School, according to authorities. Officers were at an apartment on Springfield Drive about 1 a.m. Friday, serving a search warrant as a part of a narcotics investigation, according to Assistant Police Chief Josh Judah. As officers arrived and entered the residence, suspects shot at the officers, Judah said. Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly was shot in the leg and taken to University of Louisville Hospital, where he underwent surgery and is expected to survive, LMPD officials said at a Friday afternoon press conference. A female was shot and killed during the encounter after 3 LMPD officers returned fire and the suspect was arrested at the scene, Chief Steve Conrad said. She was identified Sunday by the Jefferson County coroner as Breonna Taylor, 26. That was from later on that day after the incident. Now, just by hearing that, they call Breonna Taylor a suspect. Doesn't it sound like Officer Jonathan Mattingly was a victim? They neglected to tell you Breonna Taylor doesn't even have a criminal record. They neglected to tell you that she's an EMT, an essential worker working at 2 hospitals at the time of her death. They didn't tell you any of that. Now, the same newspaper, the Louisville Courier-Journal, is singing a different tune as of May 11th. Here is the article that they wrote. The family of decorated Louisville EMT who was fatally shot by police has hired prominent civil rights attorney. They did not give his name, so let me give it to you. It's Benjamin Crump. He's also the attorney in the Ahmaud Arbery case, with the Black Lives Matter movement in their lawsuit against 3 officers. Breonna Taylor, 26, was shot 8 times by Louisville Metro police officers who entered her apartment around 1 a.m. March 13th. Police have said the officers were serving a search warrant as a part of a narcotics investigation, but no drugs were found at her home. What a difference 2 months make. Now, here's my issue. The 4th Amendment. Illegal search and seizure. It would be a slam dunk case. However, I have to reference another case, which is the County of Los Angeles versus Mendez. Angel Mendez and his wife were in a shack. They're homeless. Los Angeles Police Department are looking for an armed parolee who is in a shack, similar to the ones that the Menendezes are in. However, Los Angeles PD entered the wrong shack. In this instance, they do not have a warrant. Mr. Mendez, who is not involved in any criminal activity that they've made us aware of, is thinking someone is breaking in on him and his pregnant wife. He reaches for a BB gun to be subsequently shot at by the Los Angeles Police Department. He is hit. His pregnant wife is hit in the back. They sue under the 4th Amendment of provocation, meaning that the police come in, they were provoked. They didn't have a warrant. They were scared. They thought someone was breaking in on them, shot his pregnant wife in the back. He was justified. He didn't even shoot at them. He was reaching for a gun when they shot. The courts awarded them $4 million in damages. It goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules that the provocation under the 4th Amendment of illegal search and seizure is an unconstitutional interpretation of the Fourth Amendment and throws it out. It's the Supreme Court, so when they threw it out, that's for everybody. So that will affect the Breonna Taylor case, which is very similar in nature to what happened to the Mendezes. And I fear it's gonna give Benjamin Crump a hard time if this case goes to trial, which is my fear. The Supreme Court sends the Mendezes case back down to the lower courts. The lower court, they threw out the Supreme Court throws out the $4 million award of damages as well, and sends it back to the lower courts. The lower courts, on another aspect of the Fourth Amendment, awards them the $4 million. Again, the Supreme Court decides against getting involved in the case a second time and allow the Mendezes to get the award of the $4 million. But they still have thrown out the provocation of the Fourth Amendment as an illegal interpretation. So that's still gone, and that will affect the Breonna Taylor case and cases to come in the future under the illegal search and seizure. So I said that to say this: we're in for an uphill fight, but I don't discourage them from fighting nonetheless. On the charges against Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, they did throw out the attempted murder against the law enforcement officer. That charge was dropped. He still has 2 other charges pending against him, and he's currently on house arrest pending trial. How do you like them apples? As a result of the Breonna Taylor case, the Louisville Metro Police Department chief, as of today, which is the 29th of May, as of this recording, there was protests down at Justice Hall all the way to the 2nd Street Bridge. A lot of it, the protests occurred and came up because of the George Floyd death that happened yesterday. The Hall of Justice, I'm sorry. The FBI has announced they are going to probe into this case and conduct their own unilateral objective investigation. And once that was announced by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the chief of police for the Louisville Metro Police Department announced his retirement before July. Now, no-knock warrants in the city of Louisville requires the chief's approval, and any sworn officer conducting a search warrant are required to wear body cams. That's great going forward in an effort to affect change and hope that this doesn't happen to another, Black or brown person. However, how do we give Breonna Taylor's family closure? How do we make that right? We can't ever make that right because a woman died for no reason and she very much should be alive. All she did was go to bed and she thought her house was being broken into. We are being executed. Day before yesterday, George Floyd was executed. It continues. His death prompted this video because there are a lot of males that are getting national attention, but the females that are dying aren't. So I put it on myself as a female that I wanted, if I'm gonna do this, I can make a series out of this. I'm gonna start with Breonna Taylor. I would like very much, and it would help me and her, if you would share this. If you would like it, share it as much as you can so that she can get the justice she deserves. I ran for Ahmaud. Let's get justice for Bree. It would be greatly appreciated. All lives matter. But all lives won't matter until they understand and recognize that Black lives matter too.